My name is Evans Okacha. I am 28 years old now, turning 29 in a few days. I was born in a town out in the west of Kenya called Kakamega. I was born and bred there, basically. And I went to school there as well, finished off and went to the university in Eldoret. Eldoret is a town also just not so far from Kakamega as well. I did my bachelor's there and then I got done. And I was now thinking of what to do with my life now, which was all ahead of me, which was quite an interesting time, and that's how I heard about Vijana Reloaded. I actually had it through my brother who had already applied, and he told me it was closing soon. Actually, by the time he was telling me, it was closing that very midnight. And so I threw in an application before midnight, and I hoped I was not late. And then I called later to follow up on the application, and I was chosen to join Vijana Reloaded, which has now turned out to be quite a big blessing. Before I joined Vijana Reloaded, I knew very well that I wanted to do a business around agriculture. So interesting enough, when I was in campus, I had a small farm somewhere. I rented a farm, and I planted 2 acres of passion fruit. And I used my savings plus some student loan money. And very interesting enough, I lost this investment, the whole of it. And that was really bad at the time. But I knew for sure deep within that I wanted to do something around agriculture because, it checks all the boxes, right? It's one of the businesses with the lowest barriers you can ever think of. Is it 30-40% of Kenya's GDP is based on agriculture? That just shows you also where the opportunity is. And then we had like idle farms around, and I knew that there was an opportunity there. So coming into Vijana Reloaded, I carried on, my past experiences from the university, and I knew if I wanted to succeed soon enough, then I just had to do something around agriculture. So when I came into Vijana Reloaded, my first idea was actually because I had experienced failure as a farmer, because I had seen also my parents practice subsistence farming and fail quite catastrophically at it. I knew that I could also be the person to sort of advise farmers on how they could do their farming. So my first idea at Vijana Reloaded was, think of it as not as a consulting firm per se, but, well, I was young and wild, and I had, this universe of an idea of how I could start with, advising farmers on what to plant, how to plant it, and probably how to market it. So it was literally, being the savior for the farmers. But then on into the program, I started knowing that probably you cannot do everything, right? And not the best ideas are not ones where someone does everything. You need to define, narrow in, and really focus and really understand what you're offering to a very specific segment which has a very specific problem. All this I knew courtesy of Vijana Reloaded, right? Because before then I just knew I wanted to leave an impact during my life on the planet. But I didn't know how. I didn't know probably the way to do that. So, coming from that first idea, universe of an idea, into defining that probably I wanted to only advise farmers specifically on rain-fed farming, right? That for me was the starting point. And I developed a small startup. I called it Mkulima Study, which it's Swahili, loosely translated into Swahili, meaning a knowledgeable farmer. Well, I did a bit with that until you live and learn, and you see probably better opportunities within, going even deeper within the same spectrum that you have narrowed in into. You see again another opportunity within it. And that probably, I think, has made me way better at what I currently do now. So when I mentioned focusing on a specific segment and solving a specific problem for them, I could not have done that with the knowledge and the skills I had right from the university. I didn't know the approach. I didn't know, I knew, one, I wanted to, impact people while making money at it. But I didn't know any way to go around that. At Vijana Reloaded, all this was like, repackaged or unpackaged. And I went block by block what it means to build a business, what it means to, dig deeper and understand a customer problem. And validating that as well. So just being sure that this segment has this specific problem, and this is how your solution can make up a perfect fit for their problem, and validating the thousands of assumptions around if the fact that if that is even a problem to these people, or if your solution even cuts, So for me, it was very good that I was able to, follow a very direct path to know that if I wanted to build a solution and build a business out of the solution, I needed to first understand, is this even something I want to do? First, is this even my passion? Is it that if I did this, then I would get somewhere and get tired and stop? And when I realized that I had wanted to do this way back from campus, it checked that box. I knew I wanted to do this. Is this my life purpose? And what is the purpose of the business? And it checked that box, and I asked myself, is this, what is the problem that I want to solve? And what is the solution, the proposition that I have for it? Just to be able to have, that simple structure and very straight and, clear, set me off, to, the right path to success, which I'm on already now. So I think at Vijana, all my energies, all my dreams were guided with tools, very strong facilitators, and very strong mentors, that sort of show you it's possible, show you that it can be done through this way, that you don't have to come knowing, but just come committed, driven, and really wanting to get it done. For me, that was really big for me at Vijana Reloaded. So I talked about narrowing into the spectrum and checking a very specific problem at the time that I wanted to solve with my first startup, Mkulima Study, and this was basically encouraging more farmers to get into away from rain-fed agriculture into irrigated agriculture. And after a lot of interactions and just looking around the field and using a lot of tools that I learned from Vijana Reloaded, I sat back and thought, and also did some desk research as well as talking to people, and I was seeing some very disturbing statistics. For example, that farmers in Africa lose 40% of their crops to post-harvest losses, and the fact that the little that gets to the market has to go through 2 to 7 middlemen. Think of that, and every middleman gets paid. I found that more disturbing. I found that to be a bigger problem to a farmer than producing, because when I looked back, then I saw even if they don't do it to the best of their ability, farmers produce, but they don't get the real value from their produce when it gets to the market. And I had to start there. This led me to think of interventions that would then give the farmer more value for their produce, but not just that, also give the consumer more produce for lesser money by basically deleting the middleman. Now, that's not easy. It has to understand it better and to really, look from within the problem. In validating my assumptions, I basically also had to become a middleman and go to farms and try to buy from farms and try to sell to these markets. And I saw there was huge unmet demand, massive demand, people wanting this produce and they can pay for it, But one particular experience that I think helps to bring the point home. One farmer was really tough at negotiating for how their produce was to be sold, and saying that if you don't want to buy it at this much, then I won't sell it to you. At the time I was, of course, acting as this very tough middleman. And, we were a group of people buying the same produce. What really struck me is one middleman called me aside and told me, you know what? So let's join forces and let's give this farmer this last price. And if he doesn't want, then we walk away and the produce will go bad. And that really struck me as the reality that happens down at the ground. You can never know these things until you are right there in them, validating your assumption in a very real manner, interacting with the real people facing the real problem. It's after this that I have now started, and I think the progress is going on very well, creating a mobile application, which is, call it an agri-tech startup, that is a marketplace platform that allows interactions between the farmer and the market directly. How does that happen? A farmer can know that a produce will sell for so much more in market X. But the farmer cannot access that market X. All they have is this good information that if I sold to these markets, then I can make so much more. But they cannot get there with their small produce. They don't have the logistical ability or arrangement to move their produce from their farms to the markets. They don't have that. But how then do we involve people in logistics, to play along within, the same platform, and farmers to interact in the same platform, and the market to interact in the same platform, because they all want the produce, the farmer wants the money, the lorry guy wants more business for them. So, think of it like Uber version 10.0 for agriculture. Because basically what this is meant to do, once a farmer's harvest is ready, the farmer, who is already registered on the platform, by the way, basically just taps onto, a point that sends a ping to the lorry guy, who is ready to, pick it up and transport, has his own business, gets paid for it, and the market just, presses, sends in orders through a button that they press, and the order is also delivered by other players who could be motorbike guys just delivering this to them. Now that gives the farmer more money, more control, and more direct reach to the end consumer. It gives the end consumer lesser prices that they can buy fresh produce at, and it gives the lorry guys or the transport guys more business. And how do we make money? We basically make money by charging commissions across all the people using the platform. That is what eMboga is. eMboga is the name, by the way. So, my current business is eMboga, and eMboga is an agri-tech startup. It's a marketplace that allows free interaction between players in the value chains. So it allows a farmer, a registered farmer, to send a ping to transport guys when the harvest is ready and harvest is made. The transport guys, receive a ping to extra work, so they carry the produce from the farm to a designated warehouse, and then we have the vendors in the markets who want supplies. They just basically also have a login or an interface on the platform that they also just make orders, and these orders are delivered to them by the very same transport guys. So that's a bit about eMboga. Right now it's still under development, the app itself, but we are in business of basically just buying and selling like other middlemen and learning a bit more, also informing how the app development is done to be as realistic as possible. And we have been in business for going to 2 months now, and business is not bad. Business is good.
And
tough but good.
And what's the value that you're giving to the different players?
So for farmers, for example, they get to have a direct reach of the market and more control actually of their produce, and saying that I'm going to harvest and sell or not. A farmer would just know of good prices far away, but now with the app they can access it by this inclusive platform that gives them almost easy access to transport of their produce. So it gives the farmer more value for their produce. It gives the transport people more work. It gives the vendor on the market good fresh produce at a cheaper price than they're getting it at now, and it gives the end consumer, same fresh farm produce that is availed to their households and their doorsteps very conveniently and cheaply at the same time.
So you deliver to households specifically?
Yes, we deliver to households now, and we deliver to vendors, which gives us an edge also above the current middlemen who just don't deliver. They just drop off at one point, and all these people come to pick their orders from a single point.
Next to your business, can you say something about how after Vijana Reloaded you were also able to take up other opportunities, and maybe explain how your lessons learned from Vijana Reloaded maybe helped in being able to access those opportunities?
Yeah. So in campus I did a bachelor's degree in environmental studies, and now I am a businessman, and I also advise business people, which is a very strange crossover. But they say at the university you're only taught to really think critically. I think Vijana Reloaded really reshaped my life in the sense that it took me from a career job-minded kind of person into entrepreneurship, which opened up a lot more other opportunities. For example, by the time when I finished with my training, and I used to hang around the center, and I used to pick up, 1, 2, 3 skills, and I later became a trainer at Vijana Reloaded, and managed it for a while, which was really nice. And from that you get to learn your other strengths, in entrepreneurship, and this really opened up a lot more ways for me, opportunities to say so, that have really changed my life. And I owe all that to Vijana Reloaded. So what I like about Vijana totally is the vibe. The vibe, just young people in the same space and, with the same energy. You don't get that anywhere else. That's what I like about Vijana.